All right, welcome everyone to our Top Agent Mastermind. This is a great opportunity to be able to hear timely discussion based on 4 of the top agents and group agents in the Santa Clara Valley. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our panel this morning, starting with a welcome to Alan Wang. Welcome, Alan. By way of background, Alan is the founder of the Alan Wang Realty Group and Keller Williams Santa Clara Valley. Alan's team ranked top 100 in the nation and has been in the industry for over 17 years. Alan is a leader who is passionate about ushering in the next generation of customer-focused real estate service professionals. Alan was also in the technology industry for over 14 years at companies which include Sun Microsystems, Google, Cisco Systems, LinkedIn, with the roles of program management and business development. Our second panelist is Anson Ip. Welcome, Anson. Glad to have you with us today. Anson is a licensed architect and founder of the Anson Ip team at Compass. Anson has been a realtor since 2004 and has a total sales volume of $304 million. With over 15 years experience as an agent, Anson has built up his knowledge, experience, and network to become a well sought out agent for expert advice and consideration. With his background in architecture, Anson is able to help his clients find the potential in properties that would have been overlooked and present profitable opportunities to investors and sellers. Anson has also become the best agent and specialist in Rancho Rinconada and Cupertino. Our next panelist is Helen Chong. Welcome, Helen. Glad to have you with us today. Helen is a CCM and is founder of the Helen Group in San Jose, an organization dedicated to helping clients build their real estate portfolios from residential and commercial real estate sales. She has over 15 years of real estate experience, both as a real estate agent as well as an investor. Prior to her real estate career, she was an analyst at a pension consulting firm. Helen is considered a real estate industry leader by serving in many real estate organizations. These include being on the board of the Santa Clara County Association of Realtors from 2017 to 2019, and has a current position of president of Northern California chapter of CCIM, Certified Commercial Investment Member. She is also an active real estate blog contributor to Forbes.com and ForbesSpeakers.com. Welcome. Next panelist is Kevin Schwartz. Kevin is a lead agent at the Erdal Schwartz team. Kevin is consistently ranked amongst the top producing agents and has an extensive knowledge of Sunnyvale and Eichler real estate. Given his background in education in civil engineering and project management, Kevin is the consummate analyst. He prides himself on giving clients the most precise and up-to-date assessment of real estate sales, housing trends, and property values. In turn, clients benefit from a realistic outlook on how to best navigate today's market. So welcome, panelists. We are honored that you would spend the time with us today. And so the format for the rest of our meeting will be, I will ask a series of questions ranging over a number of topic areas. I will rotate round robin who begins the answer of each question so that everyone has a chance to speak first. And also, we will be taking questions. And I would ask those who are in the audience and would like to ask questions, please enroll those in the sidebar so that people can see them. And we will collect them. And by the end, we'll read through the chat. And with what time we have, we will continue to try and answer questions. I know that Kevin has a hard stop at 20 after 2. So we want to be very careful that he doesn't get pressed beyond his time with us today. And we will go up to an hour and a half today and then close the meeting. So the main portion will be in the first hour. That's the question and answer. 1 to 2 minutes for each speaker, for each topic. I will hold up something red, there we go, that you can actually see, like my iPhone. And that means that you've exceeded the 3-minute mark and should probably finish up your sentence and then we'll go on. We want everyone to have a chance to talk. So without any further ado, let's begin. So the first questions revolve around getting to know the panel. The first question is, when did you first realize that you were going to excel in real estate as a career? And what events brought you to that realization? And for this question, we will begin with Helen. Helen, if you please.
All right. Well, thank you again for having me here. When I realized this, when I actually started doing my own real estate investment, I started my real estate career as a mortgage loan officer because, as you mentioned earlier, I was an analyst, so I loved numbers. So naturally, I just thought, mortgage loan business would be perfect for me. And then I started doing investing, and I found that even though I'm not very good with directions, and I thought that is a very important skill to be a real estate agent, since GPS wasn't that common at the time. I realized that I loved touring properties. I loved looking at foreclosure homes, especially. So that's when I found that maybe I can be a real estate agent. And I started having friends and families, well, not really families, I don't have family members here, but friends to ask me about investment advice. So that's how I started my real estate career.
Excellent. Thank you for that insight, Helen. The next respondent, Kevin, could you tell us, when did you first realize you were going to excel in your real estate career, and what brought you to that realization?
Well, my career started out by joining a very well-established team in my mother-in-law, Nil Erdahl, and my wife, Pilin. And I had no idea what I was getting into. I knew that I thought the idea of working in real estate would be enjoyable, maybe work a little less than I was working before. That wasn't true. Realized that pretty quickly. But, I think I started realizing I could be successful once I let go of feeling like I had to have all the answers. When I first started, I thought that being a real estate professional meant you had to know everything and be able to predict what would happen. And once I kind of settled into kind of going with the flow a little bit more and being more honest with people about what the facts were, took a lot of pressure off. And I think, got into an alignment with how I would like to work and how clients and I work together. And at that point, we started seeing a lot more success once just kind of let go and realize I can only share with you what I know. And beyond that, you're going to have to make your own decisions.
Outstanding. Thank you, Kevin. Let's next go to Anson. Anson, when did you realize you were going to excel in real estate?
It was probably after 4. Can you guys hear me okay?
Just fine, thank you.
I realized that I was going to excel probably after 4 to 5 years after I was in real estate. The first 4 or 5 years, I was just, didn't know what I was doing. Basically, I was an average agent. One of the events that really, bring me that aha moment is when I enter this event hosted by Rebecca Lynn. So I still clearly, until today, she said that if nothing you get out from this meeting, please remember the following, okay? Listing presentation is a transfer of your passion to your seller. From that moment, I click it. I say, okay, what is missing in my career is passion and attitude, So from that moment, I put that into my career. So that is that's what I will feel like what is distinct a great agent with an average agent.
Outstanding. Thank you, Anson. And Alan, when did you realize you're going to excel at real estate?
It's quite interesting. I had a similar trajectory as Anson. I still remember my first 5 to 10 transactions were absolutely awful. And I'm sure a lot of the folks on this panel could remember. It was calling the managing broker all day long, every minute. Hey, what do I do with this? What do I do with that? And it was just extremely, extremely hard. I didn't know if I was going to make it. Because just as Kevin said, I didn't feel like I knew everything. I felt like I was a rookie and I was just deer in the headlights. And after the first 5 or 10 transactions, then I started going, all right, I'm getting the flow of this. But what really worried me about real estate was, can I keep it going? And that was always my big concern. Can I sustain it? Yes, it's great. You could have 8 to 10 transactions a year. It's a good living around here, absolutely. But could I do that every year, number one? And could I do that at a high level? It took me about 5 years, but in a different way. after 5 years, I built these systems to build a referral business, essentially, to make sure I touch my clients so that they knew I was in the business, they remember me, didn't forget me, and also knew I was a subject matter expert. After about 5 years of doing that, it really started hitting its stride, and people were just really referring customers to me. I had good experience, and so that's when things really started taking off.
Excellent. Thank you, Alan. All right, let's go on to the next question. What message do you wish someone had given you early in your career that would have helped you better grow your business? So what message do you wish you had had earlier in your career? And we'll start with Kevin. Kevin, when was that for you?
So the message that I wish I would have had was just that working long hours and working hard does not mean that you're going to be successful or feel successful. You know, I think over the course of the years, recognizing that what activities my time is best spent in, you know, is what's important, and what I enjoy doing. How do I want to design, you know, my business and my team and work? What things do I enjoy doing? And then figuring out how to outsource, whether it's, you know, hiring part-time people or full-time people to do some of the other aspects. When I first started, I thought I had to put out all my own open house signs. This is part of the deal. I have to water plants, and that never really helped me take off. And I never felt successful, even though I was working very hard. So definitely wish someone would have shared with me to figure out how you want to work and then go from there.
Excellent. Thank you. Next, let's ask the same question of Anson. Anson, what message you wish somebody had given you earlier in your career?
I would say, you know, finding a mentor, finding someone who truly want to share everything that they know and bring you to a successful level. It's not so much about being work with some team that can generate the profit and all this thing. You know, finding a true mentor that wants you to successful, that is very important. At my early stage of my life, you know, like my first deal, I remember I closed a 1.6 million deal. That was my first closing in Mill Estate in Millbrae. And I thought I was good. I thought, hey, you know, I was good, you know, like, hey, look at this. And then it's not that difficult. But I knew, and then after a while, I know that I thought I was good only because I did not know enough. After a while, I get to know more and more people and more agents, study more and more. They are all of them, they are very, very successful. And then I find that it's the attitude that's this thing and transform the passion to them to become something great.
Excellent. Thanks, Anson. Alan, how about you? What do you wish somebody had told you early on?
I wish somebody had told me, sometimes when you join real estate companies, there's a lot of noise. You can get business in a lot of ways. You can do open houses, you can cold call, you can call expired listings. And I wish somebody actually told me this really simple point. The people that know, love, and trust you will always support your business. That's something I wish that somebody told me, because there's a much easier way to get business than the other ones that I mouthed off, right? Being able to understand that very point. I'll give a quick story. Early in my career, a friend of mine referred me a customer. And in my youth, I was kind of ignorant. And I said, oh, let me pay you a referral fee. First thing I said. And by the way, you're not allowed to do that. I was too young to know that at the time. And he said, his face kind of dropped and changed. And he says, Alan, that's not why I refer you. And I'll never forget that moment. He didn't refer me for any purpose other than that he knows, loves, and cares for me, and that he wants to see me succeed. And I think there's so many people around us in our lives that are of that nature, and that they want to support us. That is honestly probably the one main source of business you really need.
Excellent. Thanks, Alan. Helen, how about you? What message do you wish someone had given you early in your career?
Well, when I first, actually the reason why I was a little hesitant to be in the real estate was because real estate industry in general just have this bad reputation. It seems like we are these hardcore salespeople, and even your license is salesperson license. And I didn't realize that really as a real estate agent, it's all about education, and you're actually acting as a consultant. I just remember I started doing my deals, and you know, life goes on. I asked my broker at the time, and we ran into some issues. He basically said like he doesn't really know how to answer me, so I had to go find the solution myself. Then I started taking all these GRI courses. And as I was taking these courses, I just remember sitting there, I started cold sweating because I realized I did so many things wrong. So just getting the license itself is not enough. You have to be educated. It's about post-licensing education so that you can arm yourself with knowledge and education, and then you can be a consultant to your clients. It's not about selling your clients, and that's how you can build your referral business.
Excellent. That was really good. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the third question and last in this section of getting to know our panel. And that is, my hardest day in real estate was, and you finish that thought. And for this section, we'll begin with Anson. Anson?
My hardest day I can remember is like when at my early stage of my career, actually, that was even before I had my first offer written for my client. One of my old friends, like I known him for like 15 years since school, and then know that I get a real estate license. He say, let's work together to buy a house. I say, okay, I help you. And then we submitted the first offer. Then after that, there's a counter. Then I submitted a counter offer. Then after that, like this is about 1 week before the end of the listing period. Then all of a sudden my friend do not respond back to me. And I say, what's going on here? Then after that, I find out he got connected with the seller on Craigslist, and they strategically waited for this listing to expire. Then they can kick me out of the contract, so they have more room for negotiation. Long story short, I find out that he actually find someone from Sacramento, is a loan agent who's willing to do the loan and piggyback with writing that offer. So after I find out, I was just like very upset, very mad, Then I have two choices in my life. And then one is, hey, take it negatively and say, forget about this guy, forget about this real estate. It's not like, it's just very difficult, Or I can look into myself. I take it positively and say, I can look into myself, what have I done wrong, So the mistake I learned from here is I actually was a bad negotiator. I start to negotiate without knowing how to finish it. Besides, negotiating is not on paper. So from that lesson, I learned one thing is I would never negotiate something just on paper. You're not an agent. You're just passing on the paper. You need to really find out, to negotiate with the other side of the table. That was my mistake. So I took it positively. So at the end, I kept the relationship with this friend. 2 years down the line, and that he brought me back the first listing in Rancho Recanada. So if I didn't take it on the positive side, I took it on the negative side, there probably no Anson in Rancho today.
Excellent. Thank you. Let's ask the same question, this time to Alan. Alan, my hardest day in real estate was?
My hardest day there in real estate, for those of you that mostly realtors on this panel, I'm a car guy, right? So California Associated Realtors contract guy. You guys all know there's another group that prefers PRDS, right? As a rookie, I didn't know all these nuances. I use car, and yes, I'll probably still bar, but I didn't know much about PRDS. I've written a few, but I didn't know enough. And this just goes back to what Helen said about just getting your license is not enough. You need after post learning is really important. And unfortunately, at the time, I was more part time. I wasn't necessarily diving in as I should have. I'm selling my mom's house, my mom and dad's house. Of course, part time agents, your parents are going to use you, right? And I get a PRDS contract, and I could have asked for a car contract, but I didn't. I said I don't want to be that agent that is forcing people to use their contract. And so I said, all right, I'll take the PRDS contract. But I didn't know enough, especially that clause where they sneak in there that the seller is supposed to fix Section 1 items. I didn't know that. You guys know this, right? The car contract, you actually have to put an addendum in there. And the PRDS contract is buried in there. It's buried in there. If you don't check as is, it's in there. So we go along, we sign the contract, and then she goes, hey, the termite inspection says there's, this to be inspected item. I said, okay, yeah, go ahead and do further inspection if you like. Her report says it's $10,000 to fix. Right. And she checked the box that her report is the operating report, of course. And at the time I was too embarrassed to tell anybody really, my parents or the other side, that I had made a mistake. In hindsight, I should have just told the lady, hey, you know what? I didn't see that in a contract. Could we work something out here? She might have let me go, but she really wanted to make it a point and stick it on me. So long story short, my parents got stuck with a $10,000 bill to fix a shower stall that really wasn't leaking, but we had to fix it anyways. And that's a tough day for me, right? I mean, of all the people you want to do good for is your parents, right? You want to do a good job for your parents. And that's when not being educated enough or having enough experience kind of screwed me a little bit. And so I'll tell you, I'll never forget. And every time I see a PRDS contract, I will make sure that as this is checked and those black lines are crossing that section out. So I'll never make that mistake again.
Very good. Thanks, Aled. Hardest day in real estate, Helen.
Well, I think we have so many hardest days, honestly. And I mean, with all these negotiations or sometimes dealing with really difficult agents and you wonder why they're so mean. But my hardest day was really when you're pregnant and serving clients at the same time. And I'm one of those that first month or first trimester, I lose like 10, 12 pounds right away because I could not eat anything. I was constantly throwing up. I'll be driving my car, going to showing after showing. I'll be in between showing in the car. I'll be throwing up. So I always have plastic bags with me. Or after the baby was born and you are nursing and you still have to do showing constantly. So the pain, all that, I felt like it was really, truly my hardest days because you're not sleeping, your body's in pain, but you have to act like you're normal. You're just like every other agents out there, you're able to work still. Because of that reason, I honestly feel like nothing else would be harder than this. So I commend all the moms who are pregnant or just had a baby and still working out there because it is truly, truly very difficult jobs because I had to pull over. I had to pull over just so that I can nurse or, you know, do my mommy's job. But those days are behind me now. So I feel like right now is much easier than when my 3 kids were babies.
Wow, that's a challenge. Thanks, Helen. That was very good. Kevin, how about you? Hardest day in real estate was?
It's probably during this sheltering in place, that first week. I started in 2012 in April, and it's just been real estate prices, market going up, up, up ever since then. And that first week, it was a lot of unexpected things, you know, with the stock, a lot of properties having to renegotiate pricing, buyers just canceling, walking away from deposits. I dealt one transaction. We went through 3 buyers on the house, 2 of which, you know, didn't have contingencies and walked away. And like, this is all new to me. I don't know. I've never dealt with this before. And, you know, luckily I think I had the mindset, like I shared earlier, that, you know, these are not things that are within my control. So even though the client is upset and they're having a challenging time, I don't need to personally take that on. But kind of on top of that, I also was in between team members. You know, my full-time assistant that I've been working with had left, and I was yet to have started the next person. And so I was trying to do everything on my own, and I was just, you know, locked in this room while my wife and partner Pilin was homeschooling kids, and all of that going on during this time was probably the most challenging, you know, and not just as a real estate agent, but really as a husband and a father, to have all of that going on, and yet still there is your family that is looking to you to be present with them, and trying to balance your time between clients and your family. And so really help to reprioritize during this time. It's been a blessing to be able to figure out the best path forward for everybody.
That makes sense. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I think everybody hit around balance and family expectations, physical challenges, logistic challenges. We've had quite a time getting started in the real estate business, but the 4 of you have done it and mastered it. So very good. Thank you very much for your candid answers, for getting to know you type questions. Let's move on to market condition questions. So the first question is, were there any major changes in strategy that you had to employ with the current COVID-19 pandemic. And we begin this round of questioning with Alan.
Okay, I'm breaking this question down to two different sides. One is the customer side, and the other one's the business side.
Okay.
On the customer side, honestly, nothing different per se. I'm like Kevin and probably all the agents on this panel, but as Kevin mentioned, our job is to be consultants and really educate, provide pros and cons, and let the buyers or sellers make their own decisions. So in that sense, not doing anything different, but I will say I am spending some extra time setting the proper expectation. I mean, on the buy side, people a client yesterday thought she can chop them by $700,000 on day one of the listing. I mean, you get, hold on, let's pump the brakes on that, right? Let's analyze that. And then the sellers, a lot of them are still holding on to certain pricing, right? Pre-COVID pricing. And we also had a call yesterday, same thing. So, hey guys, I know you want this number. We've been on the market for 2 months. We haven't barely had much showings, et cetera. And here are the competitors that are at the same price range. And if you look, there are a lot superior houses, right, than the one we have. And they said, okay, Alan, we'll talk about renting the property out then. Let's explore that instead. So just really double clicking on both sides and just setting the world's changing every minute. So we need to get those expectations straight and just dive deeper than we normally do. On the business side, it's been, as Kevin said, it's been eye-opening. It's disaster recovery planning is what I call it. I've been cutting expenses. I mean, I even cut my TV service. My wife always says you don't have time to watch it anyways. But I've just cut every little thing I can that, every $10 subscription, just cut it off, right? Just so I can burn longer is what I've been trying to do. I'm looking at government programs for the team, analyzing how much runway I have, working on the team morale, of course, because there was a time when folks weren't sure what was going to happen, and then resetting goals. So yeah, just resetting my business to a level that I've never seen so I can survive this is what I've been doing.
Very good. Thanks, Alan. That was a good answer in 2 parts. Next one, Helen, if you would go ahead and respond to what were the major changes in strategy that you had to employ for the current pandemic?
Sure. So I agree with Alan. In terms of the customer side, it's not too much of a changes in terms of how do you consult with clients. But I think this pandemic allowed a lot of people realize that we really have to rely on, obviously, virtual meeting or technology a lot more. I think we have used virtual tour for years now, and then a lot of customers, they actually don't really look at virtual tour until now. All of a sudden, everybody asking for virtual tour. So I think it's good that the customers now are seeing that we're way ahead of this. In terms of my business side, this goes back to what I said earlier. This is more important because you cannot really go out and see clients now, but it's very important to stay in touch with your clients and be their consultant. Every single client is going to ask you, how's the market? Where do you think the market's going to go? How are you going to answer that? You have to bring in facts, not just I think or I'm guessing this. We cannot be the predictor here. We have to use some statistics out there. We have to be on top of the news. So we need to share with our clients even more at this time. So I think the biggest thing for me is that I also enjoy this part is that I get to share a lot more now with other people, with other clients, and also our real estate community. So that part I actually really enjoy it.
Excellent. Thanks, Helen. Kevin, how about you? What changes have you made in your strategy during the pandemic?
So our business is mainly listings in our farms, and I have another team member who works with buyers, and our whole strategy on getting leads is open houses, a lot of it, and that's gone, and probably we're not going to see open houses for quite some time. And so we've shifted to doing virtual open houses and doing them on Zoom. And first and foremost, so we want to market the house, but we also want to capture leads. We want to get those buyer leads. And so figuring out how to market those virtual open houses, we all know we used to see a lot of signs, open house signs on the streets as well. That was a huge piece of marketing for us too. So, how do we replace that? We're going to have a virtual open house this weekend, and we'll place some signs, not as many as we used to, but we're going to place some signs and have some virtual open house writers to let people know that this is something that we're doing. But actually, the virtual open house, it was so successful in terms of, yeah, a few leads, but also being able to talk to buyers and their agents about questions they had about the house, that it was really worthwhile to have that time to be able to address issues with the property, whether it's inspections, comparable sales, and build up that interest. So that even if we went back to having open houses, I thought that having a virtual open house, like kind of hour where people can come in and ask the questions, certainly would save me a lot of time of answering all the same questions on the phone with people. So I think right now it's a great time to explore, you know, different ways of doing business. But for a lot of agents who relied on open houses to get clients, you know, you shouldn't just wait around for that to return. You have to start thinking outside the box.
Excellent, thank you. And last, Anson, if you would give us your answer for what major changes in strategy have you employed?
Yeah, during the COVID-19, we had 8 sales, and then we closed 8 deals, and then we signed 4 new listings. But when I sit down and look at all these lead, where is this coming from? We are similar model, just like Kevin. Our model is mainly on farming and heavily rely on the open house, from the open house to generate lead. So I realized that we need to make some changes. Couple of things we do change, make it differently is our marketing language. All our marketing language right now is COVID-19 related. And then we did actually in our farm area, we passed out some masks in the earlier time, you know, the beginning. One for donation, the other one is also for marketing also. During this time, like me and my team, and we sit down and we actually switch gear to, it's also an opportunity for us to look back what is weak in our team. We are weak on following up with our past client. So we spend a lot of time to go back, touch base with our past client, and we try to generate more leads from the warm market. Another thing is like, we also see this as a good opportunity to expand. So we are expanding on our farm area also.
Very good, thank you. The next question sort of requires you to get out your crystal ball and polish it up real good of any dust off of it. But there's actually 2 parts to this question. The actual question is, what are your projections for our local real estate market this year and next? But as has already been pointed out, I think Helen mentioned, she doesn't have a crystal ball. And, you know, maybe the others could share. But what it does mean is, if you're not willing, or not, that's a wrong thing to say. If you're not able to give a projection of the future, which I don't think any of us can, what statistics and metrics are you looking at that's helping you communicate where it appears that the market is going right now? So it's a little bit of a complex question. It's free floating. Where do you think things are going, and what are you looking at to figure out where it may be going? What are you using as a compass, so to speak? So for that one, and especially since, let's see, we'll start with Helen, and Helen also has a commercial background, so we'd also love to hear what you think about the commercial side as well. So Helen, if you please.
Sure. So again, we cannot predict the future, but we can tell the clients what's been going on, and from the statistics. MLS listings for residential side, they actually have that AccuList giving out data every single day. So a lot of times I use that data to show people, especially with the supply and also a number of transactions being transacted during that week, or you know how the trend is looking from the first day of shelter in place all the way until now. One thing I show to them is that you see the supply had gone up quite a bit. The first day shelter in place happened, you saw like withdrawal of, it was like 85% more than last year in 2019. So what does that mean when you have so much withdrawal of listings? Withdrawal meaning they are temporarily withdrew from the MLS. That means they might still be coming out on the market. And then as soon as we know that May 4th, we're able to show pretty much all the vacant and occupied homes. What happened? You see the chart now, new listings shot up. So that means there's going to be more supplies. So we use this data to share with our clients to consult with them. And in terms of commercial side, there are apartments that we handle apartments, and we talk to a lot of clients, what's going on with their, are the tenants paying? You see on the news, they keep talking about this 30% tenants are not paying. So everybody thinks that, okay, 30% of tenants are not paying, and this is gonna be really bad. But once we start talking to the local landlords and our clients, we realize that that's not true. Class B properties or in a Class A location, it's only 5% of the tenants are not paying. And maybe if your property is Class C and in a Class C area, then there's about 10%. So we cannot really use this national number and then make it our local number as well. I think that is really important, is that for us to use more localized number and really get in touch with our clients to figure out what is going on. And we are the one on the ground day to day, every single day, talking to buyers. And I always kind of think it's funny that sometimes our clients may be talking to their friends who have sold 1 or 2 homes, and then all of a sudden their friend is the expert. We have to remind them that we are the ones who have done hundreds of deals, and we do this every single day. So we have to consult them from that sense.
Very good. Thank you, Helen. Kevin, how about you? What does your crystal ball say, or what data are you using to drive a prediction?
Well, like Helen touched on, predictions really focus with clients about, what the right timing might be and what the risks are, what the potential reward is to waiting. I look like Helen did about, really local stuff. So not even necessarily in Sunnyvale would I look at all of the actives versus pending listings. I think that's a good ratio to show us how quickly homes are getting absorbed. Looking when the MLS was stopping counting days on market, really exporting all of the sales into Excel to be able to calculate, well, how many days were they actually on the market? Those kind of things are important to be able to see how quickly things are selling. I too, expected, like Helen mentioned, the sell occupied homes to come on the market in May as soon as you could show them, and that certainly happened. But when you break it down into, school districts, or zip codes, and you look at those ratios, it gives you a really good idea of, how quickly those properties are selling. I think this summer, I'm certainly getting a lot more calls from, would-be sellers who are planning on putting their home on the market this summer. So there was a big gap in time where I wasn't getting very many calls, and now all of a sudden they're coming in. So I think we'll see this kind of spring market shift to the summertime and see more listings come on. Buyers are certainly starting to get more confidence, as interest rates are low and they're seeing the stock market climb. They're feeling pretty confident that it's a good time to get in now. But I'm cautioning sellers that this winter time is going to be unpredictable. So certainly you got a time period up until maybe September or so before people start thinking about the presidential election. And that's going to cause people to wonder, okay, how's that going to affect the economy? And then you have the winter time, and we don't know what's going to happen with the, the COVID situation. So I'm encouraging people to put their homes on the market now, just because we don't know how it's going to be impacted in the future. But based on last year's, the trajectory was not up, up, up. It was pretty flat at the end of last year. So there's not many things that are making me feel like it's going to really continue to rise at a high rate that would be worth waiting for. And so really just trying to share those kind of details with people.
Very good. Thanks, Kevin. Anson, how about you?
Yeah, it's interesting year this year. I think my projection, I think from June to August is going to be very busy for us. It's also similar idea. It's just there's a delay on the spring activity, bring it to June to this summer. So normally summertime is very busy. I mean, not very busy, but this part is the busiest summer for the past long time, 5-7 years. After the August, I think there will be a new time, new era. We don't know what the impact it is. I think there will be the true economy to see if there's any negative impact from the COVID-19 to kick in. I think the data that I have, all I can relate is back into the last crisis, 2008, 2009, the maximum decline in the Cupertino area is about 20 to 25% max, you know. So when I talk to the buyer, I tell them, hey, this is a long-term thing. If you are buying it for long-term, you know, this is the assumption that you can base on, okay? And then for the next year is kind of tough to say. I think it depends if we find any like solution for the COVID-19. If we do have that, then I think our market is not bad. You know, I think the market is not as bad as 2009 like that, you know.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Alan.
Yeah, I think the group shares my same short run and long run. I mean, in the short run, I think we're a more balanced market and even skewing more towards the buyer's market, just giving everything going on. And a lot of it will depend on our macro and micro economy. If macro and micro holds, if it gets worse, then we'll definitely be in a buyer's market. But the odds are us being in some crazy seller's market, just as Kevin said, 10% gains are pretty slim. So I think getting out now is wise, unless you're okay to hold it for a little bit longer, right, for that particular asset. I mean, in the long run, I'm talking 5, 10 years. I mean, we will be fine. We'll get through COVID-19. In the short run, I mean, this year, like as Kevin said, are we going to have a second wave? Will we shut down again? I mean, there are a lot of variables floating around that it's hard to predict. But can I talk about? I want to talk about 5 points that I do know of what I've been seeing. How about that? I like to talk to buyers and sellers about what I actually do see going on. Number 1, the best products sell, period. If it's a remodel home, priced reasonably, move-in ready, great schools, great location, close to work, you know, within my price range or the proper price range, that product will sell, and likely with a few offers, at least 2 of that, maybe more. If you underprice it, then you might get a lot of offers, right? Those products still go. Number 2, affordable homes. Homes that are affordable, especially single-family homes that are in good price ranges. I'm saying sub 1 million, sub 1.5, depending on the area. Those houses will continue to have demand and move because there's always a demand for housing at those price points. The third lesson I'm seeing right now is, and it's not a lesson, it's something we've all seen, for a certain price, the house will sell. And for a price, the house will sell. The big question is, will the seller sell it at that price? That's the question. There's always a buyer out there looking for a deal, and that's definitely the case. The fourth sector I'm a little bit worried about is townhome and condominium sector. Again, it's all location and price based, of course, hard to speak generally, but I'm seeing variable performance in this sector, especially in the condo sector. Right? And that's pretty normal because most folks want a single family home with a lot, and then if that's out of the budget, they'll go townhouse, and if townhouse out of the budget, they'll go condo. Right? So that's what I've been seeing. And my last point I've been seeing is the upper end / luxury homes will likely struggle during this period of time. Those are the 5 key points that I do see right now.
Very good. Thanks, Alan.
Mm-hmm.
The next question is kind of a short answer for each respondent. What are you seeing in terms of buyer-seller behavior in your local markets? And let's limit that to what buyer or seller behaviors that are different or unique since this COVID is hit are you seeing? So that way it's a fairly short answer compared to in general. So what are you seeing, Kevin?
You know, the only thing different I've seen from sellers is just a handful of sellers who aren't comfortable moving and relocating. They had plans to move this year and now they're delaying it a year.
Okay.
Other than that, that's about it.
Great, thank you. Anson, how about you?
I see a lot of investors on the market, or they are, you know, like they already own their own house, but they're looking for opportunity to buy some deal. Those are the buyers.
Okay, excellent. Helen?
Alan or Helen?
Either one, but Helen's fine.
Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, I could not unmute myself somehow. Actually, so the seller side, I saw that a lot of them have some hesitation, just like what Alan was saying, that obviously the homes that have been remodeled will sell much faster, but then there are some sellers saying that my home is not remodeled. I want to do the remodeling first, or I want to do expansion first before I sell. How would you, and deep inside me, I know that if they miss this mark, the price probably not going to be as high towards the end of the year. So we have to really advise them accordingly. I see like sellers are really struggling right now in terms of making that decision. Buyers, a lot of them thinking that I can still lowball. and then when we tell them that there's multiple offer situation, they're shocked.
Very good. Thank you. Those are some interesting behaviors from the whole panel. All right, we move now from market condition questions into team building. The first of the team building questions is, what are the essentials in building a world-class real estate team? And we begin this round with Anson.
The essential element to me, number one is hiring the right person. Number two is care. Care is equal to your passion. Number three is communication. Number four is going extra mile.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And how about Alan?
Yeah,
what are your essentials in building a world-class real estate team?
Anson covered a lot of it, but for me, the one characteristic that I look for is hustle, and not in the bad way, right? Not a hustler, but a person with a strong work ethic and drive. Somebody who's not just a 9-to-5 player, right? Somebody who actually is going to do whatever it takes. And I remember Helen and I, we were on the phone talking about a deal, and she said, if you like to sleep, this is the wrong business for you, because we were talking at 11 p.m. at night about a deal. And I still remember that. And that's what it takes in this business. We don't have office hours, right? It is a 24/7 job. If we're lucky, we'll get a few hours of sleep, but we do it because we love it.
Very good. Thanks, Alan. Kevin, how about you?
I think that's a good point Alan made, but I would go so far as to say like, maybe everybody doesn't have to be a hustler. I don't want to be a hustler. I don't want to be on the phone at 11 o'clock negotiating a deal. But maybe we can bring someone in that does want to do that. Overall, I think people that have high integrity, good communication, very important. And in terms of support, I would say someone that's going to really anticipate your needs. That is, I've had a number of people working with me in the past, and I found that when you have someone that is anticipating needs, they're going to challenge you to think about how to continue to grow and make the business more efficient and productive. And so I think that's very important, rather than just hiring someone that's going to do everything you tell them to do.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And Helen, how about you? What are the essentials in building that world-class team?
I don't know about world-class, but what I know is that hiring team member, it has to fit into your culture. The requirement for me is going to be different for Kevin, different for Anson, and different for Alan. So I do like to use the DISC personality, the personality test, to see what kind of personality they have. Knowing my team, we probably don't like people who are high Ds, because it will be hard to get along with other team members. And also because our team, a lot of times we do deals with another agent. We don't just like, oh, this is mine or this is yours. We kind of like to do deals partnering together. So you have to kind of figure out what is your strength and what is their strength, and then you find that complements for each other. So I find that it helps each other in terms of there's no conflicts when you're doing a transaction, and then you split the work. And because we all have our personal lives, we all have our families, we cannot be overwhelm ourselves and then neglect our family either. So that's why I find that working transactions together with a team member actually helps out a lot.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, next question. What is your thought process for setting yearly goals, especially given where we are right now? So Alan, why don't you kick that one off for us, please?
Yeah, definitely this year our team's been talking about adjusting the goals that we have set earlier this year. Last team meeting, they said, let's keep it steady and let's keep shooting. And I love that. I love that passion for my team. But at the same time, we'll probably need to reduce the goals down, given that we've kind of been on a standstill for a couple months here. But as far as goals are concerned, for my team, I want them to set goals that push the envelope. Right? If you sold 15 homes last year, your goal shouldn't be 15 this year. Right? Your goals should you should push yourself. Should be at least 20, 25. It's not to set anybody up for failure. It's just, all right, let's shoot higher. And that's one of the things that I learned at KW when my team leader challenged me, Alan, let's double that next year. I said, are you kidding me? But sure enough, we got close to doubling it because our mindset shifted on attacking the goal.
Thanks, Alan. Excellent. Okay, next one, Kevin. How about you?
I agree with Alan that you should just keep increasing your goals. I mean, on paper, right? The number of sales, maybe, you know, the sales volume, but that's a place to start. And then the actual goals are really what you're doing on a weekly basis. You know, here's your goal. This is what how many sales you want to have. Well, how do you get there? You have so many listing appointments, buyer consultations. How are you getting those leads? What are you doing each week that is going to help you manifest that? And we don't need to adjust anything. We have those, you know, expectations about what we need to be doing in order to generate that kind of sales volume. But I think that's where the focus is, not so much, you know, looking at where you are in terms of the number of sales in the year. Are you doing everything that you set out to do each and every day? And that's where one can kind of, you know, you'll end up exceeding your goals if you're doing it that way.
Thank you, Kevin. Very good. Helen, how about you? What's your thought process around the yearly goals?
So I do long-term goals and short-term goals, and then of course a yearly goal as well. I remember when I first started in this business, I would do a 1 year, 3 year, and 5 years goals, and then the numbers when I look at it, I thought I was crazy to even think about it. And then I started doing the goals with my husband also, and as we were on the whiteboard putting down these numbers, and then he was like, well, if you can make that, I'll join you in your business too. I'll quit my job. And I'm like, well, you promised me. And sure enough, like 2 years later, I hit that goal, and I never invited him to join me with the business, but I can go back and say, see, you know, it's not a crazy goal. But I agree with everyone. What they're saying is that just shoot high. You know, if you don't hit it, if you hit 70%, 80%, at least you tried that hard to achieve that. And you can still be proud of you and proud of yourself. I don't think there's a reason why for anybody to beat yourself up when you cannot reach that goal, because there's a reason for us to set a goal just so that we can continue to strive for better, to be better every single year. What is the purpose of life when you cannot try to strive to be better, right? If you feel like, okay, I'm done, I'm satisfied with everything, then you're not going to work hard anymore. So it is okay to have a really high goal.
Excellent. Thanks, Helen. Very good. And then finally, Anson.
I think it's very important to set goals. Setting goal is one big part of my, you know, career and my business. So every year we set our goal around October and November, and we give time about like 2 weeks to a month to think about your next year goal. One of the biggest impact for my career is the book Think and Grow Rich. So I utilize the 6 steps on setting goals in there. So after I set the goal, I would put it down on paper. I'll put on my notebook, and then I will put the goal in my office, a big board, you know, just everybody can see it. Mm-hmm. I would put it in somewhere that I can visualize, see it. And I also do my daily affirmation. And then I also try to utilize the subconscious to achieve that goal. And once it is set, then we just let it to drive myself for the whole year.
Excellent. Thank you. Very good. And then the last question within the team building section is, how do you inspire your team? And for this one, Kevin, we'll start with you, please.
It's how to inspire. You know, I think something that this time has taught us is just that, you know, we all have more going on than just work. And so really connecting with the people on your team, building those relations, but also supporting them emotionally, right? Where it's been a challenge for a lot of people. And I don't think we talk about that enough. We put on these masks that we have to, you know, be that, you know, that person that you're working with, and we all expect each other to, you know, to really not have bring any baggage into work, but that's not true. And so I think just being real with people, sharing with them the challenges that I'm going through, and, you know, letting them know that it's okay to kind of be feeling that as well, and to make mistakes, you know, to be open and honest with each other. I think that's really important to, you know, building a good culture and just, you know, a healthy lifestyle.
Excellent. Thank you, Kevin. Helen, how about you? How do you inspire your team?
I love asking this question is, what is your why? I think every single person needs to have that why we're in this business. Is your why just for money? I don't think that should be the reason to be in any business at all. So I have my own story. Every single person has their own story. And at the end of the day, it's about the legacy also. I always remind my team is that we don't need to be number one agent out there. Maybe I'm just one of those that I don't really care how many deals we're doing. What I care is that you're doing it right. Your clients really love you for what you have done for them, how you have built their real estate portfolio, how you have helped them with their first home, and you're not focusing on double ending the deal. Because no matter what, we are doing dual agency, there's no way you can represent your clients the best way possible. So that is not going to be our focus. Our focus is what we can do for our clients. And I really truly believe that when you enjoy doing what you're doing, you show your passion, just like what Anson had talked about earlier, your clients know that, and then they're going to come back and refer a lot more clients to you. And that's why I think the most successful agents out there are the ones that will have a very strong referral basis. You don't have to do tons of marketing. Not until this year, in the past, I have not spent a dime on marketing. It's all referral basis. So I think that is very important, is that don't focus on how many transactions I'm going to do, is what kind of quality of transaction you're going to do for your client.
Excellent. Thank you, Helen. Anson, how about you? How do you inspire your team?
I inspire my team by lead by example, so when the team see what you do, especially during COVID-19, I think there's more inspiring than just tell them, hey, we get a contract, we get a sales, we get a listing. So these are the leading by example. That's the way I try to lead my team.
Excellent. Thank you. And Alan, how about you?
Yeah, Anson took the words out of my mouth. I do the same thing. I'm like Anson. I lead by example, and I relentlessly pursue excellence is what I do every day with my craft. I liken it to an athlete who's just getting up every day and just working on their craft. And that's what I do. And to Helen's point, what do I want to leave behind here is I want my customers and my colleagues like you on this call to know that I always operated with the utmost integrity in anything I did, whether it's just treating somebody that you meet day to day in the real estate transaction or a customer, that I did my utmost to be the highest person of integrity, period.
Thank you, Alan. Very good. All right, that closes our team building session. And now for the last and closing as we hit the top of the hour, how do you hope people will remember you after you retire? So one day when this is all over and you pursue the retirement goals, what do you hope you'll be remembered for? And for that, we'll start with Anson.
That's a good question. I hope somebody will remember that I have some contribution to real estate and development and architecture. So maybe one day someone will drive by and they say, hey, look at this building here. That's designed by this crazy architect, Anson. Or look at this house value. Because of him, this area, the value keep it so well. So that's what I want people to remember me as.
Awesome. Thank you. And Alan, how about you?
Yeah, I think I jumped the gun on that on the last question, but yeah, I just want everyone to know that Alan Wang always did things the right way, and that reputation I want to precede me and to my family.
Awesome, thank you. Kevin.
Same thing with integrity, but I think something that I'm starting to recognize more is I'm feeling good when I'm having a positive impact on people's lives outside of just a real estate transaction. So, early on in my career, something that I was laughing about when you asked this question is that like a lot of agents just never retire. So like, I certainly hope to, but I also don't want to wait to retire, right? I want to, again, continue to build out a team and a business model that will allow me to enjoy life before retiring. But I think really the thing that I hope people remember is our interactions and kind of what I brought to their life outside of just selling a house.
Excellent. Thank you, Kevin. And Helen.
Well, there are three things, three different parties. One, with our clients, obviously, I hope that they will remember we help them to build that real estate portfolio, because our objective of our business is really helping our clients to achieve that financial security at retirement. I have one client specifically who said that, and early on, she said that our kids' college tuition is all on you. And sure enough, in the middle school, they already sent their kids to these private schools. And I was like, well, you kind of achieved that goal early on. So that was really, really touching for me to have that, basically have that legacy with our clients. And so we do hope that we can do that for all of our clients. In terms of the real estate industry, I hope that I was remembered by being part of helping to elevate the real estate industry standard. I'm not one of those agents that remember saying like, oh, this person is unethical, and then instead they remember that, oh, okay, she helped to elevate the real estate standard for the industry. And then lastly is with our kids. I think if my kids can remember me as like, I remember my mom worked really hard, but every single night she still have dinner with us and she still spend a lot of time with us. But I see her working late at night so that it doesn't compromise the time with them. I think that would be the best legacy. Just a few weeks ago, I thought it was really funny that my son, I asked one of my sons, I said like, so what do you want to be in the future again? And he said, well, I want to be a scientist or a baseball player, but if those things don't work out, then I'll be a real estate agent, because I think that's even harder to achieve. I'm like, wow, really? So I think it's important for us to leave legacy for our children as well, too, so that they remember how hard we've been working.
Very good. Thank you. And I'd just like to say, with that concluding set of remarks from each of the panelists, Kevin and Anson, Helen and Alan, I thank you so much for spending some time with us. The answers have been insightful and helpful. I've seen things moving through the chat very rapidly about how helpful and uplifting this has been. So I believe that your hour has been very well spent for the industry and for the agents who have been in attendance. Somewhere about 100 agents have been listening and responding. So thank you again very much. So I'm Bob Stoltz. I'm the CEO and team leader for Keller Williams Santa Clara Valley, and I thank each of the panel and each and every one of those who have attended. We hope this has been wonderfully helpful to you. And so right now, we're going to transfer into the question and answer portion of our presentation. For those of you that need to go, we certainly understand, and we will do the best we can so to get all the questions answered. If you have questions, now would be the time to input them in chat, and I'll read through them and surface them. You can direct them either to an individual on the panel or to the panel at large. Please specify which way. So go ahead and get started with that. Let's see what questions we might have coming up. Be sure to put a question mark on it too. I have to scan through a lot of these really fast. Pardon?
I saw Yvette has a question, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
If I had take time off when I had children, did you cut back on your schedule? How did you take care of your clients in that time? Do you follow a schedule of real estate practices daily? What did you do, or what did you do or do you do to grow your knowledge in real estate? So to be honest with you, when I had my kids, I did not cut my time from working. Even in the labor room, I was still responding text messages to my clients. Instead, I think I worked even more because I was really sleeping 3-4 hours a night only, on top of feeding the baby and then working. And at the time, I was an independent broker, so I was really working a lot on marketing as well. But one thing I think is very important for a lot of moms is that it's not even humanly possible for somebody to be working full-time and have a newborn. So what happened was that even though when I had my first child, my budget was really tight, I did hire a part-time nanny to help me out. So somebody was home helping me take care of the baby during the waking hours while I work during the day as well. So I was really, really tight on my budget, but that was how I was able to work and also having newborns at home.
Excellent. Thank you for that insight into a strategy to make those difficult times happen. That's tough with small children. Absolutely. Thank you. I have another question here. Let's see. How are you handling buyers' negative outlook on home prices? This is from Emmanuel. Anybody want to field that one? How are you handling buyers' negative outlook on home prices?
Do you mean, does Emmanuel mean that basically buyers are thinking that prices are going to be going downward at a high rate? Probably, huh? I'll jump in really quick. Yeah, it's certainly, I mean, I think making, regardless of, buyers all want a deal. I mean, that's the case regardless of market. Especially now, they think that there is a deal. I think the key is to run the numbers, run the metrics, see what the prices were pre-COVID, and see whatever data points you have during COVID or right now, and then figure out where the seller is at, right? If they're buying a house in Arizona, they got to get out, then yeah, perhaps they'll deal a little bit more than the one who says, I don't have to sell till next year. So I think just finding the right negotiation tactic with the right person, and also putting an offer that's at the edge of what's reasonable. I'll give you the example. My client wanted to go 700K down, under list on day one. That's not reasonable, right? That's not going to work. I mean, I think if they're going to do that, they might as well drop their price to 700K and sell the house right now, right? So I think, Emmanuel, really educating your buyers on with data. Give them data, show them trends, but also put them in the seller's shoes. Would you take an offer like that? All right, let's be rational. Is it at the edge of what's reasonable, or is it completely unreasonable?
Excellent, thank you. Anyone else want to comment on that one?
I just wanted to add that I think we should be really putting these clients or potential clients into categories, like who needs to transact, who is a serious buyer or seller, who's kind of on the fence there, and then the people like you. I think this question is about the people who are taking up a lot of your time asking a lot of questions, but they're really not going to buy because they're just not motivated. That is something I definitely learned early on, is you need to be careful who you're giving your time away to. And so putting your clients or prospective clients into those different categories is going to help you better maximize the return on that investment of your time.
Excellent, thank you. Here's an interesting one. It's kind of a long question because there's a little bit of a background to the question. It says, from one of the eye-openers of the pandemic is the ability to work from home for many people. Even with the SIP lifted, many believe companies will shift more toward working from home model. Will this change the dynamic of our local real estate market? And prior to this pandemic event, buyers wanted and needed to be close to work, eliminating long commutes. So the heart of the question is, do you think this working from home will change the dynamic in our local real estate market? What do you think?
I can kind of speak to that. We already started seeing some buyers requests saying that they are okay to be a little bit further. Before, everyone wanted to be close to their work. And now we started seeing like buyers are actually valuing more on the size of the home. They want to make sure the home has a backyard or have an extra bedroom so that it can be used as an office. So we definitely have started to see more and more buyers asking for that, surprisingly. In just such a short period of time, the whole dynamic changed. I think this goes to not even just the residential side, but even commercial side, because so many companies now saying that you can work from home. Some of the offices, we predict that the suburban area offices probably will be more popular than the ones that is centrally located, because people don't really need to go into office as much anymore. So definitely in residential side, I think there's going to be a change.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Helen. Anyone else want to comment from the panel?
I think there will be impact, but the impact might not be as fast as we thought of. It's not going to be like overnight. Just related to back to the history, like Silicon Valley, when they first invented like internet, they say, oh, okay, you probably don't need to go to work anymore, But it takes like 20 years, 20, 30 years, go up to this point that we start using Zoom like today, So even though this thing is there, I think the impact is going to take some time to move in, to kick in.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Anson.
Bob, from my side, I think this is a short-term phenomenon. Definitely, I understand if you get to work from home, people will perhaps choose to live further. I just don't know in the long run if companies are really going to keep going this route. There's no replacement for the face-to-face interaction. There just isn't. I mean, this is great. Definitely, Bob, you and I did video conferencing at Google, right? But there's no replacing the face-to-face interaction and that teamwork that you can get by building a product together side by side in a bullpen. Right? There's just not. It's much harder to do. You can move faster together as a team in a co-located location. So yeah, this year, sure, work from home. Next year, we shall see. Once we get past everything, I think the companies eventually will maybe trying to get back to some type of face-to-face interaction. So the folks that are moving out far away, I would worry that eventually you might come back anyways to center.
Very good. Thanks, Alan. Okay, the last question I see on here is sort of a doomsday scenario. One of you said that if we find a cure for COVID-19, then the market will be okay next year. What if no cure for COVID is found next year? And what do you think would be the worst scenario? Will the market be worse than 2008? So that's definitely a dust off your crystal ball. If we can't figure out where the market's going, I'm not sure how we're going to figure out where COVID is going. But does anyone want to comment on that?
I want to say, first of all, it's definitely, we won't find a cure, but we probably will find a vaccine. And I actually started my business in 2005, and so I went through that 2008 to 2012 recession. And it was pretty depressing at the time, but at the same time, even though it dropped so much, investors, I build my business almost entirely on investors. So there are going to be market, as long as you are willing to adapt. I think, I really don't think this time the market is going to be worse than 2008 for the fact that the fundamentals of a lot of banking system, everything, like we were in pretty good shape. Unfortunately, I think small businesses, service sectors, they're going to get affected the most. And most of the homeowners here in Silicon Valley, I'm speaking specifically for Bay Area and Silicon Valley, homeowners, they are not in the service industry, most of them are in the tech. So I know tech for the startup, a lot of people starting to get laid off. I think it was like about 33,000 people who were laid off in the past few months. But then the bigger companies who have like a lot of reserve, they are able to probably stay afloat for another year to 2 years. And then the bigger company, Apple, Facebook, Google, Amazon, Zoom, Netflix, they're all doing pretty well. So I just think that it's not going to be as bad as 2008 for this area at all.
Thank you, Helen. Any of the other panelists want to comment on that one?
Yeah, for me, when it's really bad, it's actually really good for somebody, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So back in, remember, like I remember those people who bought from the last down cycle, 2008 to 2010, you know, I never have anyone come back and say I regret of buying it at that time, you know. So what I think, like, to the buyer is you got to show it to them, you know, the market is going to come back. It will come back, you know. Look at that, like the money is going to depreciate it. Economy is coming as a cycle. Everything is going to be in cycle. Important is, do you want to invest in the short term and the long term? If you invest in the long term, this is the opportunity. But if you invest in the short term, then you got to be careful.
Very good. Thank you, Anson. Anyone else?
I saw this one question about how about when we call listing agents, some agent never pick up phone and never disclose any information about the offer. This is by Miko Lee. We kind of skip that question. I want to see if.
Oh.
Sure, go ahead.
You're asking the wrong group, Miko. None of the four of us do that. So, but I mean, Miko, I would just tell you, there's a reason why the four of us are in this business, right? We're trying to raise the bar of agents in our industry. So that's honestly, I don't know how you sell a house without answering the phone. And there's definitely a lot of agents that are, I don't know what they're busy doing, but they should be busy answering the calls of buyers agents who are trying to sell their home. So yeah, Miko, I don't know, but I know the four of us don't do that because I know I've talked to each and every one of these listing agents and we always answer our phones.
Very good, thank you. Here's another good one. What skill set should new or all agents be working on how to better consultants to their clients, how to be better consultants to their clients? What skill set should new or all agents be working on, and how to be better consultants to their clients?
I think it's all education, really. There are so many classes. My first one was the GRI course, which has, I think, 12 or 13 classes. I drove around 70 miles radius, all over, up and down San Diego, all the way to, I forgot, North San Jose somewhere. North San Jose, I'm sorry, LA County. And I took all the classes that I realized I just didn't know what I didn't know. So you just gotta take a lot of classes, learn from a lot of different professionals. And I think, unfortunately right now, live classes is really hard, but Zoom classes like this is still very helpful. You're able to ask questions right there. You will learn the most is from other agents' experience. Once you hear about their case studies, then you realize, oh my gosh, I did that wrong too. So you will never do that again, because you'll learn how bad it's gonna make you look in front of other realtors.
Very good, thank you.
I think something that's very important in communicating is just asking questions. You know, ask questions of your clients. Like, you know, you can't make any assumptions about what their goals are or what their needs are. You know, it's just best to come back to them with questions to be able to find out how you can help them, you know, achieve their goals. And on top of that, just become an expert in whatever area you're selling in. You know, people want to work with someone they trust, and certainly you're going to have some answers and know your marketplace wherever it is you're working to be that expert. So, you know, start out, you know, where you have your clients, and make sure you're doing your research so that you can bring value to that, and then just make sure you have good communication. Work on that communication.
Very good, thank you. Okay, let's do 2 more questions and we'll call a conclusion. So if your database was wiped clean, and given our circumstances with SIP, with your knowledge and experience, what is the one thing you would start doing or tracking to drive business again?
Make sure you have a CRM. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure, and make sure that you keep it up to date from day one. You know, everyone should have a CRM, and they should have a plan on how they're going to use it. That's something that, you know, I didn't do. I had a database, but a database with phone numbers and people's contact information is not the same as a detailed plan for how you're going to touch base with people. So if you don't have a CRM you're using on a daily basis or a weekly basis, depending on how you're working, that's where you should start. And you don't need to wipe yourself clean, even though it might be easier. But start working with a CRM.
And Teresa, on some of our calls, we've been talking during SIP. We have to understand that both buyers or sellers, a lot of them are nervous right now, and because of SIP and all that right now. So I think the key is to just love on your database with no agenda whatsoever. It's a good time to just check in on people, see how they're doing, show care and love, and eventually those seeds that you plant will emerge once we get out of this shelter in place.
And I have to agree with Kevin and both Alans. It's like the CRM database is so important. As a matter of fact, I literally just switched my CRM, and I kind of like wiping it clean also, working with my people to do that. And I wish that's one thing I wish that somebody had taught me from the beginning of my career, is like how to manage your database, because that's the gold of your business. If you don't have a good database, you don't have it categorized, tagged, or do all that right the first place, it's going to get worse in the future, because it's easy to remember 20 people, but it's impossible to remember 6,000 people in your database, and you didn't tag them accordingly.
Okay,
yeah,
very
for
good.
me, I never really, during this COVID-19, actually it's a good opportunity to realize that I have very weak on the touch base of past client. So my CRM is basically a spreadsheet and then something like Encompass. From that, like I start doing is I never really put a lot of time on the Facebook. So right now we start kind of beef up the Facebook, adding all the old client into Facebook, try to bring up the number. Those are the things that we're working on right now.
Sure, very good. All right, last question. How do you see disruptive technology play the roles in our industry? You heard people and companies compare agents as Uber drivers. So what's the role of technology in people, I think is what they're asking. How's that shifting?
Never let anyone compare yourself with an Uber driver.
Yeah, fair enough.
We drive better than driver.
Yes, we do.
I think like I can only relate this, like every different period of time, there's technology come out and they think that they can replace human. I remember back in maybe 12, 15 years ago when Redfin first came out, it's so convenient, the search engine, everything. We also from the past have Sid Realty, those are heavily on the, technology. But at the end, it proven that like human, as an agent, we always find something that, that given something that to add value to the buyer or seller. So I think in future, it should not be a fear that this will replace us. It should be for us, how do we utilize those and to add value to the transaction?
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think the technology right now it will never, I agree, it will never replace humans, real estate agents. I think a lot of people are really worried about like, oh, this AI thing is going to replace real estate agents. That's why we again go back to, we have to be the consultant. We're not the salesperson. We are not here to help people find properties online because they can find it on Redfin and Zillow, and they even have coming soon and all that stuff. Yes, sometimes we might hear from our colleagues, but that is not the chunk of our skill sets right now. And we can have a drone and virtual tour to do the marketing for us. But at the end of the day, I don't think I will have a client to say that, okay, I have all these tools now, I don't need a real estate agent to give me advice on my investment. So you have to be an advisor. You have to be a consultant. You're not a salesperson here. You're not a paper pusher. We have DocuSign. We have transaction coordinator. That's not our job. Your job is being a consultant to your client. And then, for example, right now, for me during this SIP, I'm starting doing webinars to invite consumers and real estate agents and join forces to have deep discussion about the market. And this is not about me, it's not just for me. I co-host it with other agents, and then I have consumers. We have to bridge that gap, the information gap that we have between the real estate industry and the consumer, so that we can work together. So yeah, I think technology can really help our business. It's not here to destroy us. We just have to use it wisely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just jumping in here, I saw a chart. I don't remember which class it was, but it was showing basically simple tasks and complex tasks, and the ability to automate usually are the simple tasks. The complex tasks are difficult to automate and streamline. So I think the question that's being asked is, could we be disrupted like taxi drivers, as Uber has disrupted the taxi industry, for example? I agree with everyone. The answer is no. For example, if you go and buy TurboTax, that's great if you have a simple tax case, but try to do one of our taxes, the four of us on this panel, and I wish you the best of luck, right? We don't just need to punch things into TurboTax. We need an advanced CPA to tell us, what do these new tax laws do to affect our particular situation? And for those cases, those are like our customers, our sellers and our buyers. They're walking into very complex situations, and that's why we will not go away. We will not be disrupted in the way of being replaced. But as Helen said, this technology will help us be more productive. I think that's really what the next generation of technology iteration should be, to make the agent more productive with our time.
Very good. And with that, we conclude our web session. And thank you all again, specifically Kevin, Anson, Helen, Alan. We greatly appreciate your time. Thank you for all who attended. You have a lovely and productive afternoon.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Everyone.
Thank you guys. Thanks, Kevin, Anson, Helen.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Bob.
Bye.
All right. Have a good day. Bye.